The ancestral lands of the Karipuna indigenous people are beautiful. But residents here live with a constant sense of unease. They tell me it's like people keep invading your home and breaking things. In 2021, their land was one of the 8 indigenous territories in Brazil that saw especially high levels of illegal deforestation. The Brazilian state of Rondônia, located in the southern Amazon. Its capital is Porto Velho, a faceless concrete city. Adriano Karipuna is constantly on guard. He says most of his neighbors are suspicious of him because he's fighting for the cause of the indigenous people. He moved here from his village 7 years ago. Now, at the age of 37, he's studying law, all in a bid to save his people and his homeland.
A lot of people in the city think we're out of place here. They think we should stay in our villages. But I'm no less indigenous just because I live in the city or because I'm studying and want to gain knowledge.
Together we head out to the land of the Karipuna. The journey by car and boat takes nearly 5 hours. It's been many weeks since Adriano has been home. He suddenly receives a message and immediately contacts his lawyer. A man appears to have died on Karipuna territory and the police are investigating. He was not a member of the community and no one knew him. It's possible he was involved in logging, like many who enter the area illegally. Adriano Karipuna gathers all the information he can, as it could support his people's ongoing lawsuit against the state of Rondônia and the Brazilian government. One of those observing the growing conflict is Adriano de Brito. Today, he's an independent environmental advisor for members of parliament, but he previously spent several years heading up the local environmental authority.
A real disaster has been happening in Brazil's environmental policy. It's like a demolition, and an orchestrated one at that. It's happening at local, state, and federal levels, and with the involvement of the executive and legislative powers. Just to give you an idea, Rondônia's state parliament held a simple vote, in the middle of the night, incidentally, voting to massively reduce 2 protected areas that are strategically important, the Jaci-Parama Reserve and the Gajara-Mirim State Park. They didn't seek any expert advice first, and there was no public debate. It was just because the 2 areas were reportedly stopping the expansion of grazing land for cattle.
The state's highest court ruled that the decision contravened the Constitution. But the forest is still being cleared. Both areas border on Karipuna land.
This is where our territory begins, on the right-hand side of the river. We'll be in the village in 2.5 hours.
We pass a number of giant samauma trees. They are known here as the queen of the forest. The territory of the Karipuna covers more than 150,000 hectares. A handful of families and a host of dogs await our arrival. The Karipuna go hunting, conserving the meat with salt and leaving it to dry in the sun. The Jaci-Paraná River is a lifeline for the community. At the end of the rainy season, the swollen river offers welcome respite from the heat. Relative humidity is nearly 90%. All the children attend a single elementary school class. If they want more schooling, they have to move to the city. Right now, it's time for the manioc harvest and everyone is involved. The tubers are first soaked in water for 4 days and then pressed to eliminate the toxins. Manioc has a sweet, sour smell. Each family has its own plot of land and customers in the city. Manioc flour is an important source of income. Everyone here is short of money. The process of producing the flour takes many hours. Roasting it in the heat is an art in itself.
Most Brazilians don't care about the indigenous people's fight to survive. So often, I hear this incorrect argument that indigenous people own too much land. And what do they need all this land for? And I always say, has anyone thought about why some major landowner has to have so much land? Anyone? No one gives it a second thought.
Nearly 14% of Brazil's landmass is reserved for indigenous peoples. Their right to the land is anchored in the Constitution. The Karipuna population was almost wiped out during the 1970s due to conflicts over land and due to disease. Adriano's mother was one of the few to survive. Today, Kachika Karipuna is the matriarchal figure of the community, its cultural and spiritual anchor. Adriano says she gives him strength and courage to carry on the struggle. What does she think of the repeated invasions of the land? In the past, they used to lie in wait, she says. Adriano translates her words from Karipuna for us. They defended their land with all means available. Now things are different. There are laws which the Karipuna abide by. She wishes she could say the same for the invaders. The next morning, Adriano's brother André offers to show us where the illegal loggers have been at work. Everyone's a little bit apprehensive. They never know what they might encounter. After well over an hour, we reach an opening. At first, it doesn't look that bad. But in the forest, we find swathes of devastation. During the dry season, the tree trunks are dragged over to the other side of the river. The illegal logging began here just over 6 months ago. They estimate that around 2,000 trees have been felled so far and the trunks dragged away. The wood, such as ipé or garapeira, fetches a high price. But many of these species are considered at risk.
We are really concerned about the extent of the logging. It's so sad to come to a place like this and see this destruction.
Are you afraid to come here? I ask.
These days, we're all afraid just to move around on our own territory. Because the invaders often threaten us.
How do they threaten you?
They issue death threats.
Then they discover something else new. Chainsaw chains have been left lying around. But Chichi Karipuna explains that the loggers replace them as they wear down. So it's clear they're now cutting up some of the trunks here. The Karipuna suspect that the loggers' next step will be to carve up plots of land. How can land that legally belongs to the Karipuna simply be claimed by others? Well, first, the newcomers register the plot of land online. Then, while the applications are being checked, they create facts on the ground. More than 80 such applications have been submitted for this area.
It's as though it were completely normal to destroy the forest, to make way for grazing land or soy plantations. And so it just continues, and no one is called to account. No one seeks to prosecute these crimes against our national heritage. And for us, that's what this is. But not for these people. They just see the forest as a commodity. We want the forest to stay.
They report all the violations chiefly to the FUNAI, the government authority that is supposed to safeguard the rights of Brazil's indigenous population. No one at Funai is willing to talk to us. The Karipuna say the authority turns a blind eye to what's happening in the Amazon. Andrea Karipuna takes us to another part of the forest. We send up a drone to film the area. In the capital Porto Velho, we have an appointment at the federal prosecutor's office whose job it is to uphold the Constitution. The public prosecutor often acts as a regulator for issues affecting the environment and human rights. We ask her what tools she has at her disposal to stop this destruction. Nothing that's quick, she says. Lengthy civil cases that drag on for years. And otherwise?
We always try to keep pace with these crimes and to expose the criminal structures behind them and to prosecute them. But there are no state measures that are preventive.
Is that frustrating, I ask?
Yes, it is frustrating. We've had some successes, like with 2 of our operations in 2019 and 2020, where we were able to curb illegal activities on indigenous territory. Flights over the area later showed that the deforestation was reduced. But new cases keep cropping up. As long as there are no public structures that tackle the problem at the root, all we can do is react.
Adriano is also in the city and has arranged to meet a close ally. Without Laura Vicunha from the Missionary Council for Indigenous Peoples, they might already have lost their fight. The council has helped to document all the illegal encroachments of recent years with GPS, and it's supporting the Karipuna's lawsuit.
With this legal action against the Brazilian government, against the Funai Authority and against the state of Rondônia, the Karipuna people are making it clear that there has been enough impunity, violence and violation of rights. The message to the judiciary is, it's time for you to wake up and take action.
The Karipuna are pinning their hopes on this lawsuit, which may have to go through multiple courts. For them, everything is at stake.
This is where I come from. I am part of the forest, and all of this here.